Hello, this is my Mercury video. My name is Astrobri and we're going to talk about Mercury dominant people and what to expect for the rest of winter. So if you're Gemini rising or Virgo rising, you have a Gemini moon or a Virgo moon, if you have Mercury in the first house or Mercury conjunct your moon or sun, then this is for you. This video will prove very helpful, hopefully. I've written down the dates all through November and December. And as Mercury transits the aspects he'll make. I don't put a lot of lunar or solar dates, but I did mark down a few. And we start off the month of November with a square to the moon. When Mercury squares the moon, there is a learning curve on how we emotionally regulate our thoughts and how we communicate our emotions. It's not the first frequency that approaches. It is a learning curve. So generally it comes with some agitation and some sense of needing to compromise. Compromise whether it be your logic or compromise your emotional memory. Mercury squaring the moon from whatever sign it's squaring in, whatever zodiac you use, this is an agitation energy, and it's meant to slow things down so that we actually take time to regulate our emotional communication and our communication about our emotions and our memory. So it may be that you have an opportunity to revamp your understanding of the past, being that the moon can represent the past. It's our emotional body, it's memory, and Mercury being our communicator and our vocalizer. Mercury can also represent siblings and neighbors, and the moon can represent mother and home, so this may be an agitation with neighbors too. So keep your eyes and ears open and remember that it's not personal, and this is a very short transit. There's nothing else happening for Mercury for a couple of days until it combusts the sun. So this is part of the Mercury retrograde that's ending, that ended last in October, and this is the final close of that. When Mercury is combust the sun, there is a direct hit between communication and understanding and revitalization. So the life force and how we speak and how we act on what we think is all going to be aligned for everyone, but especially Mercury people. You guys will definitely be on the 6th and on the 7th, especially because on the 7th, Mercury is going to make that same aspect to the North Node and opposite the North Node and conjunct the South Node. There is a real clicking for the communication sector. A lot of the things that would have been held up during Mercury retrograde in October are just flooding out now, and communication and connections are meant to align in a new way with neighbors, with friends, with your siblings and children as well, because a lot of the time Mercury rules over small children, not playful like kindergarten age children, but actually like the energy of puberty, really. If you think of Hermes, Hermes was forever. Hermes is the deity that the Romans and the Greeks, the Greeks aligned to the planet Mercury, and he was forever a child and a trickster. So think puberty. And that's a lot of the time why Mercury people are considered youthful looking, like their whole life. They have like a Benjamin Button energy that they age backwards, especially if Saturn's involved. But that's a whole nother story. So the 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th, and 12th are all really, really big dates for Mercury. It's going to, again, on the 6th, conjunct the sun, then the node, and then on the 8th, it will make an opposition, which is a 180-degree angle from Uranus, and at the exact same time, it'll square Saturn, who has just gone direct, okay? Mercury squares Saturn on a regular basis. However, the last time it did it was retrograde, so the resistance that we feel from Saturn and the shocking revelations that we get from Uranus, both generational, both something that you can talk to anyone in your generation and be like, hey, did you experience this resistance from government and powers that be last month? And they, when Mercury and Saturn and Uranus all come together, you'll be able to look back on this and compare it with other people. Whenever there's a generational connection, Mercurial people, you will be able to converse these things with other people of your generation. And the 8th is going to be one of those times where it's like your communication needs to be in alignment with your evolution. You can't talk about yourself the way you used to. You can't talk about your life the way you used to. You're going to have to use your new words. And your new words are the new understandings and the new way of living and the way of being that you've learned through the last Mercury retrograde back in October. Being that there is a harsh aspect, a square, a 90-degree angle from Saturn, there's going to be a test. There's no other way to put it. It's a test. When Mercury squares Saturn and opposes Uranus, there is a test. And it's a test to see if you have evolved, if you can speak into your reality the way you've been living it so far. On the 10th, there's a minor aspect with an asteroid that I just started calculating for in the past year. It's the asteroid that demoted Pluto, actually, at Ceres, and she's in an angle, positive angle, on the 10th. So if you pass the test, there's a good chance of getting a nice, comforting reward from your internal feelings about how you handled it. It will come about 2 days later, and you'll get some kind of download, whether it be coming through communication with feminine figures, caretaking figures, even mothers, grandmothers, and ancestors in your prayers. You'll likely get communication very clearly about how to better take care of yourself in order to pass more tests like that. Or if you didn't do so well in that communication rough zone on the 8th with Saturn, if you didn't do so well, it'll give you the answer so that you can do better next time. On the 12th, there's a trine to Neptune, and then six houses away will be Mars retrograde. This is hard. Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. This one's hard. Neptune can really confuse things, and having Neptune in trine with Mercury means that you can definitely get caught up in your own BS here if you're not careful. With Mars retrograde, it's affecting everyone on a passionate level. This is a sensitive subject that will get hit on. That energy will move on. And a lot of the time when we see Mercury trine Neptune, we see releases of great music. We see releases of art. Being that there's been so many protests lately, whenever another thing is in astrology, especially for our generation, when a planet aspects Neptune, it's shortly after or shortly before aspects Pluto. Those two move in a very similar time frame, and therefore when planets aspect them from different angles, it hits one and then the other almost right away. And so that's going to be the first step, is it hits Neptune and Mars, and then it hits Pluto just 3 days later. So the 12th and the 15th it's hard information to take, but it's been coming. Like, you would have felt this for a long time, and it's about owning your BS and being true to yourself, and so not to believe your own bullshit. And if you had handled this transit of Mercury through the month of November so far, it shouldn't be that hard to swallow. Mercury on the 16th will make a trine to Jupiter retrograde at the very last degrees of the tropical signs. And when it does this, there is an expansion that comes right away through this generational effect. So again, it's a bumpy road, but it's going to be not really kicking off until the second week of November. The 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th, 12th, 15th, and 16th are the big dates. On the 17th, the night of the 16th, onto the 17th, Mercury will enter Sagittarius. Mercury loves Sagittarius, and a lot of people say it's not in its power because it rules the opposite sign, but I actually find Mercury quite interesting. We get a lot of beautiful stories, we get a lot of beautiful adventures. A lot of people start making big travel plans and making their big plans known and getting social about their big plans. And get moving on their big plans. This is also generally when people start Christmas shopping. I'm not going to lie, we're doing the 17th of November, right? As this happens, Mercury will immediately conjunct Venus, and for the rest of that month, from the 17th right to the end of the month, Mercury and Venus will be moving at a very similar rate. They're going to conjunct, and then they're just going to try to travel together for a while. And Venus will be just behind Mercury. Okay, so Mercury's going to meet Venus and then jump in front, and Venus will trail behind it. So that is a lot of beautiful travel and art as well. I do expect we'll see a lot of artists releasing Christmas albums, spiritual albums. It's going to be more about creating and speaking peace than actually doing and being peaceful, if that makes any sense. There's going to be a lot of art and a lot of creative expressions released through artists and artistic people that is in the desire for peace. So we may see a little bit more protest frequency than we will sweet loving peace frequency, but that's just my personal belief. On the 25th of November, Mercury is going to affect again the nodes, and that will be a permanence. We will see again Mercury people. I immediately think of the fact that Zelensky is a tropical Gemini rising, I believe, and so Mercury does really affect his chart, and I do believe that we'll hear a lot from him at this time, and then Mercury will make an opposition to Mars retrograde at the end of November. So for the end of November, I very much expect some heavy political topics to be coming up, and volatile topics at that. Let's talk about December. So December is going to be beautiful. Mercury will make a square to Neptune, and all of a sudden the bullshit that's been building since the November the 12th will officially be cut. It'll be cut. It'll be like officially everyone knows that was, you know, us hyping ourselves into a deluded reality, or for those who were able to see through it and cut through the bullshit and be honest during those times, with that creative influence, and still manage to be honest and be accountable, those people will really move into a main character frequency. And that's on the 2nd of December. Pluto and Mercury will be at the same degree, but 12 signs from each other. That's heavy. It's happening at the exact same time that Mercury will square Jupiter, again at the same degree. There is an adjustment period here for cognitive thought process and communication about belief systems, about expansion, and about philosophy, like about one's personal philosophy as well as how you communicate with others. I do expect December, the beginning week of December, we'll see a lot of Geminis and Sagittariuses kind of having it out. For us that are, for those that are healers like myself and work one-on-one with the collective, you can expect your Geminis to really set off the Sagittarius and Pisces by that point. It's just going to happen. Mercury will enter tropical Capricorn. Again, this is suggested. You don't have to follow that tropical astrology to follow this reading. But it will enter tropical Capricorn on the 7th and immediately make another aspect to Mercury retrograde on the 16th. So 1 week later, it makes another aspect to Mercury makes another aspect to Mars retrograde in Mercury's sign. And as that happens, there's a big release of tension through conversations. There's going to be it's going to have to be honest conversation, because if it's not, it's going to end up in some really volatile, confrontational communications. I also do predict on the 16th of December that we have a lot of internet outages because of this connection with Mars retrograde. On the 20th of December, around Yule and winter solstice, we will have Mercury making beautiful aspects to the nodes of fate. This is gorgeous. I highly believe that we'll see a lot of spiritual people really taking their position as spiritual leaders and announcing stores and other type of collective opportunities and businesses. This is going to be beautiful. I highly recommend making sure that you have the availability to travel, because any time that you have Mercury making these kind of aspects to the nodes, especially in the degrees that they're sitting at and at this tight angle, there is a beautiful opportunity for very fated conversations, very fated travel, very fated expansion and connections with other people. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your siblings, talk to your friends. They have important messages for you. On the 23rd, Mercury will make an aspect to Saturn, and those conversations that are had on the 20th really take full stock, and the lessons learned are now implied and boundaries are put in. So that's a big one. It may be that you find that you see where your boundaries weren't because people walked all over you, and therefore there's a need to eradicate a certain loose boundary that you may have had with others. This goes with government, father figures, and parents and siblings. I see a lot of family contention, and that makes sense because it's the 23rd of October. So if you're having family Christmas parties this year, one, stay away from alcohol, booze, because this is not going to be a pleasant conversation to have if people are not in their right minds. And I know people normally drink and party or whatever, and I'm a sober person now, and you couldn't have told me before not to party, but I'm telling you, like, this is the kind of Christmas that would create violent, volatile fights. Not your regular, like, oh, he's going to go that way, she's going to go that way. No, this would be like a big blowout and a permanent kind of pain. So just don't do that to yourself, okay? Yeah, confirmation. That was a timer that just went off. Confirmation, people. Confirmation. Saturn says no, okay? Saturn says keep your head on straight. Be clear about your intentions, and make sure that you're not taking things too personally. A lot of people are going through their own things. A lot of people have come up the other side this year, really realizing what's important to them and realizing where their priorities are. And it's okay for people to honor their priorities, especially if those priorities do not involve you. Be respectful and let people do their thing. On the 28th, after Christmas, Mercury is going to station retrograde. It's going to be retrograde until January 18th. Okay, so like all of the beginning, the entire beginning of 2023, we have Mercury going backwards. It's going to move tropically from 24 back to 8 degrees Capricorn, and then won't remove out of its shadow period until February 8th. So anybody who's curious how the beginning of 2023 is going, it's going to be a beta test. That's the best way to put it. It's going to be a beta test from the 28th until the 18th of January. And then even further on, it'll be, you won't get your full run of how you want to run your year until we hit January 18th. And then from January 18th to February 8th, that's when Mercury retrograde is completely done. And our shadow period ends at February 8th, and we can move forward. So again, the beginning of 2023 is a beta test. Give yourself space. Expect delays, expect confrontations, and let it happen. Just let it happen, let it flow, and learn and observe. And it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. Gemini will tell you, it's okay to be wrong. That's how we learn. Anyways, from Astro Brie to you, here's to the rest of 2022.